Hello guys, welcome back to ESENtaxa. Andrea Papito here, and in this video I'm going to talk about the Italian taxes for expats. First of all, if you're new in this channel, ESENtaxa talks about taxation. How to optimize your taxation if you want to relocate in Italy and also in other countries in Europe. We are the #1 channel on Italian taxation, so we explain in English language how to optimize your taxation if you want to relocate in Italy, but also in Portugal, Belgium, Albania, and more we are going to release content on new jurisdiction in Europe. In the description below the video you will have our contact link in order to book 15-minute consultation in which we can drive you through our consultancy services, or if you want to just write us, you have in the description below this video our email contact info@esentaxa.com. What about this taxation for expats? Now, first of all, we have to understand exactly what does it mean expats. Expats are considered people who are working, who are going in another country, are national from other countries, and they simply relocate in a country they wish to live to, they wish to work, they wish to do something. A lot of jurisdictions in Europe are welcoming this kind of people through tax regimes that allows them to reduce their taxation a lot. So think about Portugal with this NHR program scheme. And also Belgium has his own explicitly tax regime for expats. So it's a regime for expats. And other jurisdictions in Europe, they are welcoming these people, especially because most of those people are high qualified. So the expats are normally, in general cases, those who have a high qualification, and thanks to the skills they can benefit from special tax regimes, because those countries, they want to attract those individuals to improve their economy and develop a certain kind of field, a certain kind of sector, research, etc., etc., etc. So Italy actually is doing basically the same. This is doing through the impatriate regime. Originally, the impatriate regime was designed to attract back Italians, because normally Italian students and research and PhDs, they choose to move in another European country for a better salary, for a better work condition, and now Italy is trying to attract those brains back to the country in order to benefit from their skills. But of course, because of the European legislation, Italy cannot discriminate based on the citizenship, based on the nationality. So actually the impatriate regime works for everybody. Everybody as a European citizen, but also everybody outside Europe, basically who is coming from a country that has a convention for mutual assistance, or a convention to avoid the double taxation with Italy. So what does it mean? It means that, for example, if you're coming from Brazil and Brazil has a convention with Italy in terms of exchange of information, mutual assistance, and avoid double taxation, you can benefit from this regime. So actually in Italy, the first point that I want to mention is that an expat in Italy, of course, can also be considered somebody that could be a digital nomad. So somebody who wants to invest in the country, somebody who opened a business, somebody who started a business activity. And the expat, in general cases, matches with the tax scheme as impatriate regime. So Italy tried to attract those people with a benefit of 90% of deduction from your income, which means that only 10% of your income will be taxed with the ordinary Italian brackets if you move in the south of Italy, or 70% deduction, which means that only 30% of your income will be taxed at the ordinary tax brackets if you move in the north of Italy or center of Italy. So the expat status, the expat regime in Italy matches exactly with the impatriate regime. And the impatriate regime works for employees, so somebody which is high qualified for a certain multinational company or Italian company, or if you want to be a self-employed, because you want to start up a new activity in Italy. You have an idea, you have a business, or you want to simply bring in Italy your business that you are carrying on abroad, or freelancer here. But the expat can also be somebody that earns less than 85K. It's a self-employed. And here they can exploit the forfeit regime, which is also work for Italians, but can be also used without any problem for expat. So this is the first tax scheme that you can benefit as expat, okay? Because those, especially the impatriate regime, is the one that works when you are a new resident. So you are an expat, you're coming from another country, and most likely you have a different nationality, you're not Italian. Now, the second point that I want to mention is that the An expat could be an Italian resident in terms of taxes, so a tax resident, or a non-resident. What is the difference between those two? So you can be expat as a non-resident or resident. So if you're expat as resident is because you want to live in Italy, you wants to live in Italy. And for example, the impatriate regime requires you to stay in the country minimum 2 years. So in this case, you will become a resident, ordinary tax resident, which means that you will be liable of your worldwide income taxation, okay? While if you are not resident, you are subject only to the territorial taxation. You can be an expat, benefit from territorial taxation only. It means that only if you produce income in Italy, only if you stay in Italy for less than 6 months, so you can be considered an expat for 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and you're producing income in the territory, then you are considered non-resident because you will be subject to Italian taxes only for the income generated within the Italian border. While if you are an expat as a resident, because you apply for those regimes here, you will be taxed in Italy on your worldwide income. This means that when you are in Italy, you have to also take into account your other incomes coming from other countries, put them together in the Italian tax file return at the end of the year. Third point, how an expat is taxed. So what is from a number point of view? An expat in Italy is subject, in general cases, on the RPF taxation, which is the taxation on individuals. And in this channel, we have talked extensively about the RPF taxation, how it works, how it can be reduced, what does it mean deduction, what does it mean the detraction system. So there are several systems to reduce and squeeze your taxation. The RPF is the taxation in brackets. So it starts from 23%, up to the maximum rate, it's 43%, so based on your income. In the description below this video, I will put also to the RPF taxation 2023 in Italy, so you can have a look of how the brackets works. So an expat basically is subject to this taxation. Also, when it applies for the impatriate regime, this deduction, basically the 90% and 70%, allows you to exclude from RPF taxation 90% of your income. But still, the 10% or here the 30% income that remains will be taxed at the RPF taxation, okay? Except for the forfeit regime, where your taxation is only 5% for the first 5 years as a flat tax, and then becomes 15% after 5 years. Last point, you can be a specific expat in Italy, and you can fall in the category of researcher. So this is a very particular category. So if you are a researcher, university researcher, and you move to Italy as a new resident, you can qualify for return of brain regime, which is basically a branch of the impatriate regime. It's known as return of brains, which is also, okay, let's call it the impatriate regime, but this is specifically designed for researchers, for very high qualified people who work for certain labs, laboratory in university, which is the most general cases, some PhD, some specific research that stays in Italy for 2 years, 3 years. So this kind of category is very particular one because they benefit from a 90% deduction of their income, which means that only 10% of their income will be taxed under RPF taxation, but in all Italian territory. So there is not the differences here between south of Italy and north of Italy, but in all Italy. Basically, those are the 4 points in which we can consider an expat benefiting from these specific regimes. So an expat can be an impatriate in terms of taxation, in terms of tax regime, because it can be classified with this tax regime. We can call them not really expat, but impatriate them, or inbound workers, okay? Because, yeah, this is also another definition, inbound workers. The expat or inbound workers can be resident or non-resident, so, and this depends of the territorial worldwide income taxation. This is based on the fact if you're fiscal resident or not. The expat is subject to the RPF taxation. Also, resident or non-resident, they're subject to the same RPF taxation. And the researchers, they have, as expat, they have this 90% deduction of their income on all the Italian territory, so they can even stay in the north of Italy and benefit from this 90% deduction. And that's it for this lesson here in ESENtaxa. If you want to know more about the subject, if you want to know more, if you want to understand if you are an expat and you belongs to one of these points, let us know. In the description below the video, you will have our email contact, info@esentaxa.com, or 15-minute free consultation in which we can guide you through our services and see how we can help you and understand your specific situation. Like button please to help us grow as a channel, subscribe this channel and notification bell to be always updated for free whenever we release this kind of content. See you. Thank you.